Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Why Are We Like This, a Heartstopper podcast.
I'm Ashley, she, her.
I'm Alyssa, she, they. And today we are here to talk about Season 1, Episode 1, Meet. So this episode was written by Alice Oseman, inspired by her original work, and was directed by Eros Lynn, which I didn't totally just have to look up on YouTube about 5 minutes ago. God, I love the Welsh. And this is the episode, according to IMDb, where, stuck in a secret relationship, shy Charlie starts to crush on Nick, the school's popular rugby star, and joins the team against his friend's advice. Fair assessment?
But there's so much more.
Yes. Should we start right off with just content warning?
Yes. So there will be discussions around sexual assault in this episode, and we can put the timestamps of those discussions in the show notes so that you can skip those parts.
And there will also throughout be discussion of abusive relationships, abusive partnerships in general, because Ben.
Yes. And also discussions around eating disorders as well.
Yes, that will come up.
So, we start right off with our baby queen.
We do. I literally, it was like the little opening to Want Me comes on, and I'm just like, this is the perfect way to start the series.
Truly. Like, it sets the tone, it sets, like, the sound of the show, like, very much so.
It does a great job.
And we see our boy Charlie, and he is truly happy. He's so happy walking into school. And it's, like, heartbreaking to think about, one, what's about to happen, but two, everything he's overcome in those hallways. And, like, look how he's so happy, and he's like doing great as of this exact moment.
Yes. And then he gets a message on his phone, which, really quick, can we discuss his lock screen?
Yeah, we get the intro to the gay panic.
Gay panic. It's great. It's just pink with purple text. I love it. I love it so much. So we see that.
Also, if there's like ever a like phrase to describe Charlie Spring, I feel like gay panic.
Gay
baby.
panic. Yes. Gay panic, indeed. So he has an Instagram DM, which, really quick side note, do the children really communicate exclusively through Instagram DMs, or did Netflix have some kind of deal with Instagram? Because they exclusively communicate textually through Instagram.
Yeah, but I feel like in the comics even, it's usually Instagram.
Is it? Okay.
Maybe it's a British thing.
Add it to the list. Georgie!
Yeah. Georgie, we're coming for you. We will be having on a British friend who plays rugby later to answer all of our questions.
Because we are, of course, Americans who just love British television. Because who doesn't? But so he has an Instagram DM from Ben, and it says, "Can't wait to see you, kiss."
Which is so promising. Like, in the, just straight off the bat, knowing nothing, you're like, oh, he has a little boyfriend. This is going to be cute.
Yes, but then if you're like me and you read the comics first, you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no, Charlie, no, my sweet boy. So then we see him walking through the halls. How do you feel about the, like, editing with the wipes, including the, like, borders to make it look like comic panels?
I personally love it.
Okay. I have mixed feelings about it. I think that some of the framing of some of the shots in this sequence is really awkward, but later on, like, when Tao and Elle are texting, I think it's used really well. So it's context dependent for me whether I like it or not. And I know why they would want to do it right off the bat here, but some of it's a little bit clunky for me personally.
I don't know. I like it.
Yeah.
It gives it character.
No, totally fair. I think, there's just this one shot where it's like trying to show Charlie smiling, but the way that it's edited, we end up mostly just getting his hair. And that kind of pulled me out of it for a minute. And I was like, but Joe Locke's smile is just so cute and adorable. And I want that. And I love his hair, but like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, so then he goes into the library.
Ben's not there. No one's there. And he looks so sad.
Yeah, his face drops. My heart drops with it.
Yes.
It's not great.
And he checks his phone, and there's another message, says it was from 2 minutes ago. Actually, can we meet up at break instead? And this is one of the rants that I mentioned. Because it seems like, when you look at his phone, it says 8:22.
Mm-hmm.
And when he opens it and we see like the full like messaging interface, it says that the first message was sent at 8:20 and that this one was 2 minutes ago. So basically, this second message must have come through like right after Charlie put his phone back
in his pocket. Yeah.
And it's like, that's so telling immediately of like, within 60 seconds, Ben went from, I can't wait to see you, to actually, wait, I can wait to see you.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking, and it's so telling, and it does a great job of kind of establishing this relationship as not the heart-stopping one that we are looking forward to.
Yeah, right. And Charlie responds with like a smiley face, like, sure, smiley face, heart. And that also shows like he's trying his hardest like not to show his disappointment and to like remain positive about the situation, which he does for too long, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah. We do also, in this quick shot of him responding, we get to see some of his frequently used emoji, which of course I paused the thing. And so the ones that I was able to make out were the red heart, which we see him use in this text, the film strip, which I have to imagine he sends every time they schedule a movie night, the sad puppy dog eyes face, the sun, the like sleepy, tired face, and then just like various different smiles.
And leaves.
Leaves. Were there leaves? I might have missed the leaves. I missed the leaves.
Yeah. The like brown leaves are there too.
I missed that one, but very, very accurate.
Yeah, super.
That is Charlie.
They knew what they were doing.
That is Charlie in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get an announcement over the like PA system from Headmaster Barnes, who is voiced by Stephen Fry, which I love. The captions, I don't know if this is just in the US, but the captions in American Netflix call him the principal, and I know that that's not a thing. In England. So I was like, excuse me, subtitles, you are wrong.
It has to just be the American subtitles, because they also, on Young Royals, they'll say headmaster, but the subtitles always say principal.
Oh, okay. But yeah, he's credited on IMDb as Headmaster Barnes, so that's what we're going to go with. Or I'm just going to call him Principal Stephen Fry, which I wish Stephen Fry were my principal.
I feel like this is going to be me with, I'm like, I wish Olivia Colman was my mother.
Yes, that too. I mean, I love my mother, but if Olivia Colman could also be my mother.
Yeah, second mom.
Yes. But so Stephen Fry makes an announcement welcoming the students back from their break, right? We're right back at the start of the new calendar year. Right, mid-school year, and reminds everyone that their form groups, which I assume are similar to homeroom in the US, just kind of based on everything that happens, are going to be mixed amongst all of the different school years now. So you're going to have students from, every single year in your form group now, which I guess before they were, grade specific, and now they're not.
Yeah, the way that it's announced really makes it sound like it's a new thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And also the fact that like when Charlie goes into the room, it's kind of set up as this is a new and different thing.
Yeah.
But again, we're going to have to ask for clarification on that. But Charlie has very helpfully written on the back of his hand, new form group B25, which is also very telling, the fact that it's on the back of his hand.
Right. And the placement of it as well.
Yes. But also different, because in the comics, he just like has a letter that I assume they sent home.
Yeah. Right.
But I much prefer chicken scratch on the back of your hand.
Yeah. Well, that's also just like more accurate for a teenager. That paper's going to get lost for sure.
That paper is taped up to the fridge because Charlie's parents wanted to make sure that they knew all of this information. That's on the fridge. That's not that's not going in Charlie's hands ever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he walks in and he gets greeted by this teacher,
Mr. Lang,
who I personally love. I'm like, yes, he's so apathetic. Like, he does not give a fuck. He's like, whatever, here's your seat.
0 fucks. The note that I have about this is, so the quote is, "I'm sure you'll get along swimmingly, or you can sit in silence for the rest of the year. It really doesn't affect me in any way whatsoever." And I wrote, this both speaks to me deeply as a teacher and is also completely unrelatable. Because so many of the things that my kids do, I'm just like, yep, it does not affect my life in any way whatsoever. Seating arrangements, however, very much do affect your life whatsoever. I will say I teach students of a different socioeconomic background than the students in Heartstopper. Also, they are real students. They are also preteens. So the context is a little different, but if I, like, whoever I put my kids next to, one of two things happens. And neither of those things are sitting in silence for the rest of the year. Right. Either they're already friends with that person and I didn't know and they talk nonstop, or they become friends and then they start talking nonstop, or they hate each other and complain to me every single day until I move their seat. So that is the reality of the situation, but I aspire to this level of 0 fucks given.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But we should rewind a bit because before we discover that Mr. Lang gives 0 fucks, he tells Charlie that he's going to be sitting next to Nicholas Nelson.
And we get like a shot of his like shoulder.
Yeah.
We don't see his face or anything.
There's conveniently someone standing in the way. And then we learn that Nick is in year 11, which is 1 year older than Charlie, and that he is one of the rugby boys. And this is what we learn about Nick before we see him.
Yes. And then finally, after the teacher has really let Charlie know that he does not care, Charlie gives us a very angsty eye roll and a little sigh.
Which is accurate.
Yes. And I feel like not enough people talk about Joe Locke's face acting talent. Because we see all of it wash over him in this moment where he turns and sees Nick and the sunlight comes through and we get our little rainbow glare on the screen.
I literally wrote, there's a lens flare that radiates out from Nick like he's the sun, which, given that he's a sweet golden retriever boy, is absolutely perfect. Because that's the other thing. He is a golden retriever boy.
Yeah. Yes, he is. Also, there are 2 desks and 4 seats. And then we never see that again.
Yeah, no, it's, yes, this classroom changes its layout shortly after this.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah, and then we get those iconic Heartstopper leaves that blow around Charlie's head.
Yeah, my note says, they say hi to each other, sparks, fireworks, and leaves.
Yeah.
Also, on the window behind them, there are like these geodes.
Oh, I missed that.
I really liked those. I don't know if that's like supposed to be a science class or something when it's not.
It's a gorgeous school.
Yes.
It's way nicer than any school I've ever been in.
Yes.
Ever. And I was a high school athlete, so I went to a lot of schools.
No school I ever went to was that colorful.
No. They're all usually sad and beige and white. I noted that when they say hi to each other, the way that Nick looks at Charlie, it's very clear, at least to us watching, that there is some kind of non-platonic interest there, even if Nick doesn't realize it yet, which I think is really great on Kit Connor's part. Just this way of like, this quick flash of like, oh, hello. But like,
yeah, it's very subtle.
It's very subtle, but you can tell it's like, oh, there's something. Nick doesn't know it yet, but there's something. And then there's more leaves, and then we get the title card.
Yes. I love the way they do the title card.
Yeah.
How it's like different for every episode and like just perfect every time.
And it's like, it captures the vibes of the comics really well.
It does, yeah. Which is, like, also, we should say, like, having Alice involved in the creation and writing and everything that they're doing with the show is like such chef's kiss.
It's
like
perfect.
It would not be the same show without
no
their involvement. So after the opening titles, we get Charlie walking into the music room.
Which, again, is a very nice music room.
Yeah, super colorful.
Yeah.
This is where my notes were on. No school I ever went to was this colorful.
And then we get Ben apologizes for canceling on Charlie in the morning. And kind of, this is our first look at Ben. And right off the bat, he seems very cool. He's got the like swoopy cool guy hair. And he's leaning against the wall, which cool guys lean. I don't know where I learned that, but culturally, we all just know that cool guys lean. And I'm right now thinking of that interview that Matt Smith did for House of the Dragon, where he's like, Damon's a leaner. He likes to lean on things. And I'm like now replacing Matt Smith with Sebastian Croft talking about Ben. And that is,
he likes to lean on things.
He likes to lean on things. And he says, I missed your face so much. And I almost believe it.
Yeah. It's like, he's doing the classic thing, right?
Yeah.
Where he's like, oh, I fucked up. So let me just like shower you with compliments and affection and you'll forget about my fuck up.
Yeah. And then he immediately ruins it because they kind of like have this quick little chat. How was your Christmas? And as soon as Charlie starts talking about his Christmas, Ben kisses him to cut him off. And my notes say, but in a shitty way, not in a cute way.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely a cute way to do that, and it's not this.
And like, you ask the question, you're not even going to let him finish answering it. And it's because you don't give a fuck. Like, this is just showing us straight out the gate that he does not care about anything that Charlie has to say.
This is the first time that I wrote, fuck you, Ben.
Yeah. He is there for one thing and one thing only.
Mm-hmm. So then, like, they're kissing and the bell rings and Ben just leaves.
He wipes his mouth.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's awful. He wipes his mouth, is like, see you later. Still don't tell anyone about this. And leaves before Charlie can say anything.
And then we get that adorable little wave.
Just bye.
Through the window. Bye.
He's so sad and confused and deflated.
This is not how we like to see our Charlie.
Yeah, it's like immediately just like thinking back to those first moments where he's so happy. And
that's gone.
Gone.
Yep.
So then we get our first montage, or second montage, really, of the episode, which is just Nick and Charlie encountering each other at various places on the school grounds, saying hi to each other. And I love that one of them, the first one, is just they're both trying to walk through the same door at the same time. Yeah. And it is not a wide enough opening for two humans. And so they're just like shoulder to shoulder and they just go, hi, hi.
And like the angles at which they come at each other, there's no way that they didn't, like, at least Charlie, because Nick was looking at his phone.
Yeah, Nick was texting.
Charlie was just looking down. Mm-hmm. Like, you would have seen motion. It's just like, but of course, like, they would have, both of them would have let it happen, even if they did see it. Like, oh, no. Yeah.
I also did note here, don't text and walk, friends.
Yeah.
Unless you're trying to bump into your crush in a doorway. But, like, also, that sounds really uncomfortable. Like, my shoulder hurt.
Yeah, they hit hard.
Yeah.
But also, okay, so I wrote it down. There's 1, 2, 3. There's 4 highs before they start the maths chat.
Yes.
And every single one of them, Nick said hi first.
I didn't even note that. I just wrote down which ones they were. Because it's they bump into each other in the door, they see each other in the hallway, they sit down in form together, and then Nick is like working on his math homework in the hallway.
Mm-hmm. And every single time, Nick is the one that spots Charlie and says, well, I'm sure Charlie was looking at him, but, you know, he looks up and says, oh, hi, every time.
Which I feel like also tells us a lot about Charlie's personality of like, oh, like, there's no way that Nick is notices me outside of when we're sitting right next to each other.
Right.
Like, you know, like that like angsty teen thing of like, of course my crush doesn't even know who I am, even though we sit next together in class. Like, sit next to each other in class.
Yeah. So also, like, there's a bunch of people out there that talk about like how much harder Charlie fell for Nick than Nick fell for Charlie. And I'm like, episode one.
Begs to differ.
Nick is saying hi to him every fucking chance he can get. Like, the boy is fallen already.
Yeah. It's just that he doesn't know it yet.
Yeah.
In the words of Baby Queen, he wants him and he just don't know it yet.
Yes.
Listen, that just came to me. Like, I literally just, like, we're talking about this and that song has been stuck in my head all day. And I was like, wait a minute, it's perfect.
That is a perfect song for it.
But yeah, and so then Charlie asks if Nick is in fact doing his math homework on his way to class and says that that is chaotic, which, as a teacher, I disagree. The truly chaotic thing would be frantically trying to complete said homework as the teacher is walking around trying to collect it, up till the moment that the teacher literally slides it out from under your pencil as you are still trying to write, leaving just like a long line of shame down your paper.
Well, to be fair, we didn't see how far he got. Maybe that was the case once he got to class, because he took a break to flirt with Charlie.
Yes. And Nick thinks that Charlie describing him as chaotic makes him way cooler than he really is, which is fair because Nick is secretly a dork.
True.
And Charlie offers to do the homework for Nick because he's a math genius. But Nick has drastically more integrity than any student I've ever encountered, both in my careers as a high schooler and as a teacher, and says that if Charlie does it for him, he won't learn. Which I also have a lot of opinions on, just because, like, I don't necessarily think that homework helps you learn, but that's a different diatribe for a different day.
I related to Charlie in this moment because I did a lot of people's homework.
I did
in hopes that they would like me.
Oh, I did too.
Including my current partner who I met in college, and literally we had study group together, and I would just be like, I did this for you.
No, I would, you know, when I did have classes with my friends, I would do the homework and then we would do it because I swam competitively in high school. So like I would do the work and I would like answer it and I'd be like, yeah, guys, it's whatever. Or I remember this one time that we had a group essay, which teachers never assign a group essay. That's fucking annoying. This was in 12th grade English. We had a group essay and everyone wrote their parts, but half of those people didn't understand basic conventions of like English grammar. So I then rewrote the entire thing at 11 o'clock at night the day before it was due. Yeah. We got an A. The teacher knew that I did it. The teacher knew that I did it. He was like, why would you do that? And I'm like, because I wanted it to be good because my name was on it.
Yeah.
Because I was also the best writer at my school.
Yeah. Also, after I graduated high school, I worked at a gas station. And so teenagers came in a lot. So I had a side business of writing papers for kids. So they're arguing about this maths homework.
No, we're going to call it math homework, like the Americans that we are. There will also be no U's in our colors or our favorites.
And Charlie makes some moves, being all flirty and physical and trying to get the paper, and Nick is fighting him back, and my note is in all caps, and it just says, these boys are flirting with a capital F out here in the corridor. Truly, the only people that have no idea what's happening is them and Tao.
Oh, Tao. My note just says minor flirting. Minor in quotes. And then amidst all of this wrestling, Nick accidentally draws on Charlie's hand and fixes it by adding eyes to turn it into a smiley face. And then Ben comes and fucks it up.
Yeah. And that's like also very telling of like Nick and Charlie's relationship. Yeah. Like Charlie being like, how dare you? And Nick being like, I can fix it. I can make it better.
Yeah. As opposed to what happens immediately after, where they see Ben, and Charlie just kind of like instinctively says, hey. And it's like, it's so well delivered because like you see all of just like this hope in the line delivery from Joe. And Ben is such a fucking ass about it.
Yep.
And he's like, why would you talk to me? I literally don't even know who you are.
And Nick is so confused.
So confused. Because then Ben, because they know each other, is like, all right, mate. And, you know, Charlie asks, like, oh, you know him? And Nick looks so embarrassed to admit that he sometimes hangs out with Ben.
Yep.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
But,
as he should.
Yeah.
And also, like, very Nick Nelson of him, he does not ask anything about it. He just continues walking and doing his homework because that's, like, something that Nick is really good at, is not pressuring anyone to tell him anything that they don't want to tell him. Like,
is especially important at the end of the episode, which I don't want to talk about yet, so we're not going to.
Correct.
But Charlie, like, then walks away, and he looks so sad and so confused, and like he's genuinely wondering how someone so nice could hang out with someone like Ben. Like, it's all over Joe's face, Charlie's face, Joe, Charlie,
and he's like folding in on himself too, physically. Like, his body language is like crumbling.
It's very, very telling, and my heart shatters into a million pieces.
Yeah.
Alternate title for this particular episode: Heartbreaking.
Yes.
And then we go to the schoolyard.
Yeah, our lovely, super colorful picnic tables.
Yeah. And Tao bought an extra juice for Elle again.
Adorable.
So cute. He's so mad at himself.
Yeah. And they say, and the day before, and Monday. So that tells us it's Wednesday, and it's the first week back, and he has bought the juice every day. Also letting us know straight out the gate that he's in love with Elle.
Yes.
And he doesn't know it yet, but he is.
And everyone knows that Tao and Elle are in love, except for Tao and Elle. But we learned that Elle hasn't been at Truum all week, and Tao misses her greatly, even though it's a good thing that she's no longer there, because Elle is Charlie and Tao and Isaac's trans friend who used to go to Truum, but it was a very not good space for her, and now she is at the all-girls school Higgs.
And this dialogue is such a like graceful and beautiful way to introduce us to Elle.
Yes.
Like, so normalizing. There's nothing like, it's not putting a spotlight on her or like pointing it out like, hey, it's like, just so like, this is our friend. She's not here right now.
Yeah.
We miss her. And then they move on.
And Tao is being a whiny little baby because he misses Elle, which, like, fair. But he says something that I literally, every time I'm like, Tao, what? He says 4 is a group, 3 is just a trio. What is the difference? And also, clearly, you've never watched, like, any iconic media, because, like, there's always the iconic trio.
Yeah.
Like, dude, stop shitting on trios. Trios are great. Also, I mean, this group expands to be way more than 3. But
yeah,
I literally wrote, what? You're just sad your girlfriend isn't with you at school every day.
You're right, though. He does bring that back up.
Yes. He says later, he's like, we're just a group, a trio.
Yeah.
But it's also very telling of Tao.
Yeah. It lets us know how passionate of a person he is.
He's a very passionate person. He's not like other girls. Which I wrote down about him later.
So then Charlie looks up and sees Nick playing rugby with some of his friends. This is where we get the realization that they all know him as Rugby King Nick Nelson.
Rugby King Nick Nelson, who looks like a golden retriever.
Which, to be fair, Kit Connor does kind of look like
Kit Connor.
Like, Kit Connor is also golden retriever energy.
Yes. The other song that I've recently had stuck in my head as I'm rewatching this is Midnight Rain by Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Because Nick is in fact Sunshine and Charlie is in fact Midnight Rain.
Yes.
But I also noted that this is the only time that Tao is ever right about Nick in the first half of the season.
Right in what way?
Like, it is
About the
the
golden
only
retriever, or-
accurate assessment that Tao makes of Nick Nelson.
Yeah.
Like, everything else he says is just these, like, really judgmental things that I don't think are necessarily fair.
Yeah.
Even the way that he talks about Nick being a rugby lad.
Yeah.
This is the only time that Tao is correct in his assessments of Nick, is that he looks like a golden retriever.
He goes pretty hard with the assessments.
Yes,
he does too. So,
as we will discover in subsequent episodes. And then Tao wonders what they talk about, what Nick and Charlie talk about. And we get the flashback to the iconic scene from the comics where Nick's pen exploded all over his hand, and Charlie goes to help him try and clean it off. And even though the hand washing doesn't work out, flirting ensues.
It does.
And, you know, they're talking about how Nick can make blue hands the new school fashion and pretend like
Which,
he's
as
wearing
someone
gloves.
with blue hair that has to use blue conditioner and often has blue hands, I'm like, yeah, make it a thing. Let's normalize it.
Yeah. But I do also want to wonder briefly about these pens that Nick uses. Like, what pens is he using that, number one, exploded and created this much ink carnage? But also, when we like come to the next day in a few minutes and we see that Charlie still has the smiley face still, it doesn't even look faded. I'm like, what are these pens? Like, is he using flare pens? Like, the only pens that I've ever used that like do not fade after you like wash your hands and stuff like that are Penmate flare pens.
Well, to be fair, as a teen who would have things that they did not want to wash off, washing your hands very carefully and not getting that spot wet
That's fair.
Is an art form that I feel that Charlie probably has mastered.
That's fair.
But also I think they're called fountain pens, right?
Okay, maybe.
And I've personally never used them, but I have seen them.
Yeah, I've seen them too. I've never used them. But I'll believe that they're super inky. I'm just like, what is this very long-lasting ink?
And it's like everywhere. It's all over his shirt. Like, was he writing up here?
I know. I'm just like, what? How did this happen to you, Nick? You are not that much of a disaster bisexual. I would know. I am that much of a disaster bisexual.
Oh, man. But it doesn't matter because we get giggles out of it.
Yes, that's true. It's just good times. And then we go back to the schoolyard. And I have to say, I have a lot of biases against Tao, both in the series and in the comics. I have a lot of strong opinions about Tao because he reminds me of someone that I was friends with, who I am no longer friends with, and I'm going to leave it there. But at least at this point, I definitely see where Tao is coming from and why he feels so protective of Charlie. Because Charlie says, but like, Nick, he's different. He's nice. And I can't help but roll my eyes. Even though I know that Nick is in fact different and nice, I can't help but roll my eyes because like my own protective friend, like mama bear instincts just like are going off, because if someone in real life, like one of my real friends said that to me, I would probably respond very similarly as Tao does in this moment.
I'm glad you brought it up because my next note just says, I know that we have differing Tao opinions. Just because I feel like I relate to him a lot as someone who is protective. And in high school, I did not know how to effectively emote that.
Yeah.
And it's super easy to cross that line between protective and like controlling.
Yeah.
And that's just like a skill that with time you have to learn how to remain protective of your friends, because it's okay to be protective.
Yeah.
But you also have to be supportive and not controlling of them. And so I feel like that's a line he hasn't quite learned how to walk yet at this point.
Yeah, and I definitely have space for that, which is why I always say that I have a lot of personal biases against him. Because of my own experiences with people like that in high school. And like, I mean, I've been Tao and I've been Charlie. And like, but yeah, I see a lot of not good things happening that I have to, we'll talk about it.
Can we talk about Joe's line delivery of, but Nick.
Yes.
I was like, so good.
Like,
so good.
I'm like, at least Charlie's starting to realize what's going on here.
Oh yeah, he knows. The way he like nervously like comes in on himself when he says, but like Nick, he's nice. It's like, you don't make those emotions when you're talking about a friend.
Yeah. I do want to briefly acknowledge Isaac's existence.
Yes.
Because he's here, he doesn't really say anything. And this becomes like a running theme of Isaac just kind of hanging around, reading a book. I looked it up. I found an article that breaks down every single book that he reads in the series because I couldn't get a clear shot of what it was. And it's Dune Messiah by Frank Herbert, which is like the 17th book in the Dune series. And in the article that I found, it actually has an interview with Patrick Walters, who's one of the executive producers.
Yeah.
Who said, Alice picked out all of the books and once said, and this is a quote, it's always going to be very, very funny if Isaac's reading super chunky books that are like book 17 in a series of a huge multi-book sequence. And then the next day, he's onto something completely different. Like, wouldn't that be really funny and iconic?
Yeah. And obviously it is because everyone's always like, what book was that? What book does he have in his hand?
And Isaac is one of my favorites. So,
yes. We love Isaac.
Yeah. So I just wanted to do that. Also noteworthy is that Isaac is not in the comics. This is a new character who replaces, how do we say it? Aled? Aled. Who replaces Aled, who kind of takes a similar role in the comics. But we get Isaac here.
Yeah, they are really, really similar. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they chose to switch it up. But I'm happy about it because I love Isaac.
I love Isaac. I love Toby Donovan.
Yes.
It's great. And I love the fact that seeing Charlie like staring wistfully off and pining over Nick makes Tao think of hell. And
when he opens their messages, did you see all those X's?
Oh, yeah. So in a little bit, we're going to talk about the fact that during a different text conversation, I did in fact pause and count punctuation marks. I did not think to pause and count all of the X's, but there were a lot of kisses there, guys.
Yeah.
It was like at least 8.
Yeah, for sure.
Lots of kisses. So he goes to text Elle the news of Charlie's new crush on a rugby lad, which of course is scandalous. And I think this is a great way of transitioning from Truim over to Higgs. And it's one of the best uses of the kind of like comic book panel editing. I think it works really well here to kind of set up, Tao and Elle in their different schools, eating lunch, talking to each other about what's going on with Nick and Charlie.
Yes. And we see Higgs, another very colorful school.
Yes.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. And Elle claims that it's a lot better at Higgs and that no one's chucked a sandwich across the cafeteria all week.
Which, the bar is low.
Yeah, the bar is on the floor. No transphobia, no one chucking a sandwich.
Right. And she has her apple juice.
She has her apple juice, which, of course. And Tao asks if she's made any new friends, and we can see that she's sitting by herself. And, like, there's no one at her table, and she's, like, looking around. And she says that she has made friends and that everyone's been really nice.
Yeah, sweet girl.
And my heart breaks.
It's so hard, dealing with being the new girl and trying to make friends, especially coming from the environment in which she is coming from and the fear she's probably carrying around.
Mm-hmm. And thinking about kind of how everything happens with Darcy and Tara later on when they come out, I have to imagine that it's not the most accepting environment for her either. And that we just don't see a lot of it. Which I think makes what happens next, it pisses me off even more because then Miss Greenwood, who is the teacher, who is Elle's teacher at Higgs, comes up and takes Elle's phone and says that they don't make exceptions even for new students. And I'm like, okay, but you could just not.
Yeah.
Like, no one's gonna stop you.
Yeah, and also, do we ever hear of this rule ever again?
No.
Because they have their phones out in the cafeteria a lot later on, and no one ever says a word to them.
It pisses me off so much. And officially, if I were to ever see a student with their phone, I would confiscate it and turn it into the guidance counselor, who would then contact
officially
their parents to come and pick it up at the end of the day. However, like, number one, what child is giving their phone over that easily? And number two, like, you know the situation, especially because is it not the next episode where this same teacher is like, I know you're having a difficult time.
Yeah,
like,
you should try to make friends.
You know what's happening. And like, you're gonna take her phone. I'm like, you made a choice, and I like you less because of it.
Yep. Mine's all caps. I'm like, this stupid phone rule that we never hear of ever again. Yeah. Rude.
Because when Tara posts the picture of her and Darcy, they're like on their phones in the cafeteria, like deleting Instagram comments.
And there's the scene where they're like, got tongue-tied before I even started. There's the scene where Tara's on her phone and Elle's on her phone, and Darcy's like, well, this is a great chat we're having here, guys.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like they're constantly on their phones after this.
Yeah.
This makes no sense.
And I get, like, if it were an in-class type of situation.
Yeah. But this is cafeteria.
So the next morning, Charlie arrives wearing all black Converse, like the Converse model that he is. And he gets a text from Ben to meet him in the library. And so then we go to the library, and Ben,
because of course,
a shithead,
we go meet him. Yep. And again, he starts off by immediately apologizing and trying to throw compliments.
Yeah, and so here's the other thing, too, because he apologizes for ignoring Charlie, which feels like an understatement, because ignoring someone is one thing. Like, literally saying, I don't even know you is a whole nother level of mean that Ben is undercutting by saying that he was ignoring Charlie.
Yeah, it's not ignoring if you're responding to them.
Yeah.
Ignoring would have been walking past him and not saying anything.
Yeah. And Charlie looks super uncomfortable and super upset throughout this entire conversation. And he's very much realizing that this is not something that he wants.
Right. And this scene is like really hard to watch because you can see Charlie his body language is like he's turned off. He's not engaging. Mm-hmm. And Ben leans in and kisses him and he does nothing. Mm-hmm. And instead of questioning that and searching for that consent, he just continues until Charlie gives in, basically. And it's terrifying and horrible, and I hate it.
So much hate. So then we go to the very colorful art room.
First, though, we get a shot of his smiley face hand.
Oh, yes.
And that he has not washed it off.
That is where I accidentally skipped over that note where I'm like, what is this pen that does not fade?
Yes.
But yeah, so he like looks down at the smiley face and he's realizing.
Which tells us,
that's what he wants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he knows.
And then we go to the very colorful art room.
And we get a shot of Charlie not eating his lunch.
Mm-hmm. I love Mr. Ajay.
Oh my gosh. What a gem.
He is both everything I wish I had in a teacher in high school and everything I aspire to be now.
Yeah. He's amazing. He's grading some Heartstopper leaves.
I missed that, but I knew he was grading something. The notebook,
it's like some drawings of leaves. Mm-hmm. And he's got on his pride pen, letting us know straight out the gate. and then we get some backstory through him.
Yeah, so we find out that it's been a while since Charlie's hidden in the art room at lunch, and that tells us that Charlie used to spend a lot of time in the art room when he was first outed and being bullied last year. And so Mr. Ajay, being the incredible teacher that he is, makes sure that Charlie is okay, that he's not being bullied. And I can't remember what it was that he said, but it reminded me of something that I say sometimes is like, do I need to have a strongly worded conversation with someone? Right. But so Charlie tells Mr. Ajay that he has a boyfriend, kind of. And it's really clear that Charlie is struggling to name what is happening, but doesn't know how.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I'm just like, it's the amount of notes I have of like Joe's line delivery.
Yes.
Of the like, not, it's like, yeah, it's so perfect. He nailed it because it's like, not really my boyfriend. It's kind of complicated. Yeah. How do I word this? Like, but we'd also learned from that little chat that Mr. Ajay had a hand in stopping the bullying.
Yes.
And that he has created this very safe space for Charlie to come and get support.
Yes, which is
important moving forward.
And it's, I mean, just as a side note, that's so important for kids everywhere to have a space like that where they can just like know that this is a room where I can be myself and feel safe. Which is one of the reasons that we love Mr. Ajay. But so Charlie explains that Ben ignores him in public, but then is fine when it's just the two of them, which I don't personally think is an accurate assessment of the situation.
Yeah, but not from what we've seen.
But Charlie's also 14 years old and probably doesn't have the language to describe what's going on. True. Which I feel like is often difficult to remember. But it's like, because I mean, the actors are younger than most actors playing high schoolers, but they are still, they do look older than they are supposed to be, because Charlie's supposed to be 14. And there's no 14-year-old who is going to be able to be like, I'm being emotionally abused by my maybe boyfriend.
Yeah.
And I think Mr. Ajay does a really good job of handling it. He gives advice, of just kind of like, have you talked to your boyfriend about how you feel? And it's great because Charlie just is like, no. And Mr. Ajay is like, have you, maybe you should. And Charlie just like rolls his eyes and like folds over. And it's so accurate because I've had this happen before, like with my siblings, with my students, where it's like you tell someone something, like the next step seems obvious. And you're like, so have you done this thing? And it's either because it hadn't occurred to them or because they don't want to. And I think in this instance, it's clear that Charlie doesn't really want to. Like he knows he should, but he doesn't want to, which I think is fair given everything that we've seen. And we know Ben's not going to take him seriously. Mr. Ajay doesn't know that. But Charlie does. And just the response from Charlie is just so accurate of like, I don't want I know I have to, but I don't wanna.
And also just like speaking as someone who suffers tremendously from anxiety, like the idea of having to confront someone about the way that they are making me feel or that I am feeling about a situation is like completely overwhelming.
Yes.
And so especially to be 14 and dealing with it, like it's scary and it's so hard.
Yes.
So, you know, it makes sense that he's like putting it off.
It does. And I don't fault Charlie at all. I love the way that he responds. Like the body language, everything about it it's so accurate. And then Mr. Ajay asks if Charlie wants to break up with Ben, and he doesn't know. And Mr. Ajay asks because we know that Charlie has a support system. He has Al and Isaac and Tao. And, you know, so Mr. Ajay asks, like, have you talked to your friends about this? And Charlie insists that they wouldn't get it because they're not gay. And Mr. Ajay is so done with it. Like, they've had this conversation before.
Yeah, the look that he gets on his face, and he's just like, we're doing this again.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Which we know the real reason is because they don't know about Ben.
Yes. But yeah, it's just a perfect moment. Mr. Ajay is perfect.
And I love that he's not going to sugarcoat our baby. Like, he's not going to sugarcoat anything. He's not going to baby Charlie in any way. He's going to give him, like, open and honest, straightforward answers and advice. Because you just, like, especially someone who's been through the trauma he's been in, you don't want to, like, give them any sort of, like, I don't know. I don't want to say false hope because that's not what I'm trying to say. But, like, you don't want to lead them in any uncertain direction.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be like, this is the way forward. Go.
Yeah. You have to deal with your emotions, and you're going to have these conversations. Good luck.
Yes. And that's exactly how it goes all the time when you're actually dealing with kids. So we go to the school gate at the end of the day, and Charlie sees Nick tossing, a rugby ball. He's like playing catch. And
yeah, you know why he sees him though? Because we hear Harry say, "Oi, Nick!"
I missed that.
I laugh every time because it's so like very typical jock, like the way that he yells it, just like, "Oi, Nick!" Like, and then when it cuts over, like he's not even anywhere near Nick. He's like directly behind Ben.
Yeah,
and Nick is like tossed. So like, who knows what he was trying to say to him?
Who the hell knows? But then Charlie also sees Ben kissing a girl. And like his face goes from like so happy because he loves Nick and doesn't want to admit it yet, to like heartbroken in a matter of nanoseconds.
And panicked. He doesn't know what to do.
And he runs away.
Right. Because Charlie is a flighter. He is not ever a fighter. Yeah. He's on flight every time. Yes.
Which is better than being a freezer. I'm a freezer.
True. Okay.
But yeah.
It definitely depends. If it's a physical altercation, I will punch instinctively on, like, without even thinking.
Yeah.
But if it's like conversation, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, gotta go.
Yeah. And then we see Charlie laying in bed trying to text Ben. And he writes, "Do you have a girlfriend?" and deletes it. And then he writes, "I hate you," in all caps, with 13 exclamation points. This is the point where I started pausing and counting. There are 13 exclamation points, which I personally think means Picture to Burn Taylor's version is next, confirmed.
I knew that this was going to lead to Taylor Swift as soon as you said there was 13.
I'm not joking that there are 13. And it says, insert possible Taylor Swift joke here. That was my notes. And I've been flipping back and forth between just going with what I actually think is next, which is Speak Now. And like Picture to Burn just feels correct in this moment.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
But so then he also deletes that and finally writes, "I don't want to meet up anymore," and hits send.
And Ben freaks out.
Yes. He responds with, again, I counted 11 question marks. And Charlie just says sorry, which he shouldn't because Ben is the one who should be sorry.
And he says, "For fuck's sakes, we aren't going to get caught." And it's like, that's projection because you're the only one that is concerned about getting caught.
Yes. I also have a lot of feelings about the choice of the word caught.
Yeah.
It's very telling about the place that Ben is at in his own journey, where it's very clear that, like, for Ben, he's still grappling with the fact that he thinks that being gay is a bad thing because you only get caught doing bad things.
It's true. That's a very point.
Yes. And, yeah, it's just very telling that that's what he feels about it. And then also, again, just like the gaslighting of telling Charlie he's the one who's worried about getting caught when that's not the case.
Yeah.
Which we see again a couple of times.
And we also see him once again asking questions and not giving Charlie even a second to respond.
Yeah, because Charlie's like literally like going to type something and then Ben says, "Don't ignore me, Charlie. Hello?" Mm-hmm. And it's all like very unsettling. It's just like, I've been there and I don't like it.
Yeah. And so he turns his phone off and rolls over and goes to bed, as he should.
Yes, that's the best thing to do. And then we get to the morning and Charlie not eating his cereal.
Not eating. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then we meet Tori fucking Spring, everyone.
Big sister icon.
Yes. Also, this is a perfect introduction to her.
Perfect.
With her sneaking in, scaring the shit out of him. She's got her diet lemonade she's a slurping on, and she gives that little smirk at the end.
Yeah. She's like, why is your face like that? Which is, in fact, older sister speak for what's wrong. And we get arguably one of my favorite exchanges in the episode. Charlie says that he broke up with his boyfriend, and Tori says, was he a knob? Charlie says yes. Tori says, well done then. Jenny Walzer just nails it in that moment.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is Tori Spring. Like, that is Tori Spring in a nutshell.
Yeah, 100%.
She just nails it, and it's perfect. And then we get on the bus and we get more Tori. There's not enough Tori in this episode, but what we get is...
There's not enough Tori in this series.
Yes, which is why we're going to read Solitaire.
Yes.
But then on the bus, she's asking Charlie about his hypothetical dream guy. Charlie does not understand the assignment.
No, he does not.
He does not understand what dream guy means. Because he says, someone I can have a laugh with, who's nice and kind, and likes being with me. I'd probably just settle for someone tall.
Which also just goes to show, like, that he has, like, basically no standards.
No, he doesn't.
He's like, he just wants to be loved.
I know. I'm like...
And he doesn't understand that he deserves much more than what he's getting.
And it's not even like, I'm like, the correct answer is like, I don't know, Chris Evans. Like,
right, yeah.
You name someone famous who you would totally go out with if given the opportunity. And that did make me wonder. I'm like, I wonder what Charlie's celebrity crushes would be.
I only know what his fanfic celebrity crushes are.
But also we should note that while he's describing his hypothetical dream guy, he wipes condensation off the bus window, and who does he look at but Nick Nelson.
Also, going back to his list, we do see Nick and Charlie. Nick makes Charlie laugh.
Yes.
He is nice. He is kind. And in episode 6, I think, he says, I just like being with you. He gets every single one of those things that his very low bar has been met.
Yes. Yes. I mean, Nick exceeds it. He passes that bar with flying colors.
For sure.
But
also, I just love, like, how invested Charlie is. I mean, no. How invested Tori is in Charlie's, like, life and his love interests.
Yes.
Because I am one of 3 kids in my household, and my siblings could never. They would not care, especially at that age.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I was the older sibling who didn't really take an interest because I was too busy thinking that I was, like, the, outcast of my family, and no one really understands me. And, because I was that.
Because teenagers.
Yes, because teenagers. But yeah, I was that kid. I was just like the tortured soul who no one understands, even my own family.
I'm the middle kid, so I was just kind of all over the place.
Fair. Another injustice, though. Can we get Ollie in season 2? Bring back Ollie.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I mean, I understand from, like, a production standpoint that having a, like, young child on set fucks shit up in terms of, like, labor laws. But we need Ollie Spring. I want him back. Logistically, they won't be able to put him in, but that is the biggest injustice in the entire series. Of all of the things that they changed, which they don't change much, that is the most egregious. Which is a strong word, but
it has to be like just like labor laws.
It has to be,
right?
Just the logistics of working with very young children. But that is why we have fan fiction.
True.
Yeah. Tori is great. And I also really love how invested she is in Charlie's life. Even as she's projecting this very, like, nonchalant, I don't care persona.
Mm-hmm. Which she will never give up.
No. No.
So then we cut to PE class.
Mm-hmm. Charlie,
he is a book in it. I love hearing Joe talk about filming these scenes. he was like, I had to ask them like a couple of times to slow down because I was like going to throw up trying to be faster than everyone else. So he was like, it was very embarrassing having to be like, I just need you to slow down.
They do a good job of making him look like a speedy boy.
Super fast.
Yeah. Coach Singh says that they've been doing this all term, at which point I can't help but wonder how long it's been. Because this episode really does clip through a decent amount of time. But no one has beaten Charlie's time yet. And like we can tell, obviously, because there's a huge gap between Charlie and the next pack of like runners.
Yeah, he's very far ahead of all of them.
Also, this is, I think, the only time we see Nick playing a sport that's not rugby, but they're playing soccer.
I don't think I realized that.
Yeah, I had to do a double take because I wrote rugby and I was like, wait a minute. And then I was like, nope, they're kicking a soccer ball. That's a goal. They're playing soccer. But then, you know, he's like on a different part of the yard because he's, you know, with the year 11s. But he sees Charlie running and number one, falls in love. And number two, has an idea. Number one, he falls in love and then he has an idea.
Yeah. And I also, can I talk about how I feel like this scene has more weight in the comics than they give it in the show. They really water it down, I think.
Yeah.
We don't like focus on Nick too much realizing, but you can see like his brain is a turning. Yes. Like he's like, okay, well, there's this very cute, very fast boy. How can I interact with him more? Oh, I know. We need someone on the rugby team.
Yes.
Okay. All like very quickly flashing through across his face.
Yeah. I know. And I'm almost like, I want like an Alice art style, like light bulb to go off.
Yes.
In the corner because like you can see the moment where he's like, wait, I can get an extra hour with Charlie every day.
Yep.
Ding. So then we go to Charlie's locker and it's a very small locker.
Yeah. What's up with that? I was like, I would drop everything out of this tiny ass locker too.
Like for a very nice school, they're not giving their students a lot of storage space. And I'm like, I'm like literally looking at it logistically and I'm like, how is he fitting his books and his jacket and his book bag all in there?
Very carefully and strategically.
Also, they don't have locks. They like have like keys.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've seen that in other shows. I don't know.
Add it to the list.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a British thing or if it's because I'm like trying to think back. I know I've seen it in shows, but were they all British shows?
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. I definitely have never seen that before. Not that I've noticed anyway. But yeah, all of Charlie's stuff falls out of the locker and Nick comes over and helps him because what is a high school rom-com without the scene of the very cool love interest helping the awkward protagonist pick up their books after they've all fallen on the floor.
Which it's also important to note that the reason that he dropped everything is because Nick walked up and said hi. And he was like, oh my God, my crush is here. What's happening?
Which is also always how it happens. Like, it's a trope. And I love that they included it because normally it's like the really awkward, mousy girl, but it's Charlie. And we learn at this point that Charlie plays the drums because in addition to his books falling on the floor, his drumsticks fall on the floor.
Yeah.
And Nick thinks that that's so cool.
The coolest thing ever. Yes. And that's my favorite out of all of the web comics. My favorite Nick panel is him saying, you play the drums? And his face being like, oh shit.
Yeah. That is the face of someone who is talking to his platonic friend.
Besties.
What's the male equivalent of gal pals?
Best bros?
Best bros. Yeah, no, there isn't one. We need one. But you know, so they're, you know, flirty. Also, it is pretty cool that Charlie plays the drums.
Yeah.
Right. And Nick has a question. He has something he needs to ask. And we get Charlie's little daydream sequence where the background goes all pink and we get the Heartstopper leaves and he says, Charlie, I wanted to tell you that I'm gay too and I'm in love with you. Do you want to go out with me? I want to be with you forever. Hard cut to reality.
So cute. Yeah. I love the animation
it's
too.
Great.
Like having him like glowing, like very nice.
Yes. And then Nick actually asks him to join the rugby team. And personally, if I were daydreaming about my high school crush confessing their undying love for me and then asked me to do a sport, that's my nightmare. Like, hi, I'm in love with you, but actually I need you to join this full contact sport.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it. I'm gone.
But Charlie, he is a natural flirt.
Yes, he's
like,
very
I don't think he even realizes how flirty he's coming off. And he's like, aren't I a bit small and weak for rugby? And Nick's like, oh no, like,
it's only
we're a school team. It's not that serious. And then Charlie pops back with, so you're saying I am small and weak. And Nick gets so flustered thinking he's accidentally insulted him.
It's great. It's great. Charlie is way too good of a flirt for the like awkward, nerdy teen that he's supposed to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Tao doesn't like that Charlie wants to join the rugby team. Which I sort of get because rugby is scary and dangerous, and not for nothing, Charlie is very small and weak.
Yes, and also he's not wrong in that that's exactly the type of person who was bullying Charlie just last year. Yeah. So it's a very rocky road that Charlie is deciding to take.
Mm-hmm. And like also this is kind of where we start to see Tao's deep-seated insecurity of things changing really start to take root, because Elle is gone and we kind of see with his like inability to buy one juice, right, that he's not dealing with the change very well, even though for Elle it's a good thing and he acknowledges that. And then here he doesn't like it and he gets very like defensive about it, but it's like he just doesn't want things to change. And we see that more when we have the like rugby montage in a little bit, but like this is where we're like really starting to see this kind of taking shape with Tao of just like this fear of losing everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's extremely resistant to the change.
Yeah.
And Isaac is he's just there hoping for a love story to bloom.
Yes. Yes. Isaac ships it.
Yeah. He's like, please. Yeah. Finally. Mm-hmm. I also love when he's like, it's not a crush. I don't just fall for every guy who's nice to me. And Tao and Isaac just look at each other and smirk like, yes, you fucking do, Charlie. Yes, you fucking do.
We've all been there.
Yes.
So then Charlie goes to the locker room, and before he like actually walks in, we overhear the other players talking about him. And they're worried that he's too young, too skinny. They wonder if he even knows how to play rugby. We hear the first and only time I've ever heard the term "dece" as a slang term for decent, and I hate it. I don't know if that's just like a UK thing or what, but they're like, we actually want to be dece, and I'm like, no, don't like that. And then we hear Harry.
Yep, say, everyone knows he's gay. And that's when Charlie, this is also showing us that, like, yes, Charlie is fight or flight, leans flight. Yeah. But he's also going to stand up for himself when it comes down to it. Yeah. So the second that they bring up that he's gay, he walks in the door.
Mm-hmm. And the room goes quiet. But first the room it goes dead silent because they're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And then Nick
hops up because he's nervous and he knows what they were just saying.
Like the excited golden retriever puppy that he is.
Yeah. And he says, hi.
Then Charlie says, hi.
And Harry is sitting next to him. And if you watch Harry's face when Nick jumps up and says hi is pure like, oh, I'm going to use this. This is going to be, it's like before we even know this character, he's like being mean and mischievous. Like, not great.
Not great. Harry,
not great green.
and then, so then they're at rugby practice and Charlie is now terrified.
Yeah. He's so nervous.
He's seeing it in action and he's just terrified. And his can-do attitude left long ago.
I love that line. Oh, she left long ago.
I love that his can-do attitude is female.
Yeah.
And also gone. Nick tries to be very encouraging. And then we get this like rugby training montage to Dover Beach by Baby Queen.
Cute Baby Queen.
And my note here says, I have no idea what is happening. I understand nothing about rugby. Someone please help. Nick looks great though. And then in parentheses, these are both mine and Charlie's thoughts, by the way.
Yes. I kind of wrote down in this sequence, we do get to see them because it's clearly over, I would say several weeks, maybe. So we get to see their relationship develop because in the beginning of the montage, there's a scene where Nick has the ball, Charlie's open, and he says, Nick, and Nick does not pass it to Charlie.
Yeah.
And then we see them. What is this 1, 2, 3 squeeze bullshit? I'm very confused.
I literally know nothing about rugby.
I'm like, what kind of, is this like a team building warm up? Like, I don't understand what this is.
I assumed that it was part of the game, but I have no idea what's happening. Like, I wasn't joking when I said I know nothing. Like most sports I can normally follow along with. I struggle with football, but that's okay because my husband played football in high school. So if I'm ever in a situation where I need to understand football, I just say, what just happened? And he tells me.
Right.
But which is funny because one of our first like unofficial dates, we went to a college football game at our Division III school because one of our friends was a cheerleader and she had asked us to go because it was the first game. But I was like, I have no idea what's going on. I just am here to watch our friend do flips. But I literally can't tell anything of what's happening. I'm like, they're running. So sometimes they get lifted like they're cheerleaders and they catch the ball. They 1, 2, 3 squeeze. People get hurt. I don't know what's happening. Georgie, help.
Georgie, we need you. We need your expertise. But so we do see through these things that we don't understand. We see Charlie is like on the outskirts of things. He's not really being included. And then we see them in the locker room. Nick's giving him tips. And then slowly we start to see him being incorporated more. We see them passing and Nick does pass the ball to Charlie. There's a scene where they're all in the locker room and they're like patting Charlie on the back, like telling him good job. And then we are slowly seeing Charlie being able to keep up with Nick in their one-on-ones as we go through this.
Something else that we see early on is there's this shot of Coach Singh looking very worried, but it's very clear that she's not worried about Charlie's rugby abilities. She's worried about the other players giving Charlie a hard time because we see Harry being an asshole in the background and she like looks back at him and looks at Charlie. And so like we also kind of get that characterization of Coach Singh, which kind of is small, but we get a lot more of throughout the season.
For sure.
And like over the whole time we see Charlie improving, and like starting to fit in more with the team. And then we also see Ellen Tao looking for each other and they can't find each other.
To which I'm like, you have cell phones. We have seen you talk to each other. Why do you not message each other and say, I'm outside the gates. Do you want to say hello before you go to your school and I go to mine? Like, why are you just standing there and pining? Come on, teens. Come on, teens. We can do better.
And we also interspersed with this see an angry Ben walking down the hallway texting.
Yep.
But before
and then it ends, it ends with Charlie finally besting Nick in their little one-on-one game, and Nick falls in love. He is like, "Oh my God, you just took me down."
Yes, and we get the leaves again, and Nick is. I wrote Nick has definitely caught feelings and is very confused.
Yeah, and Charlie's little giggle that he does.
I love them. My sweet little boys.
Yeah, my little babies.
But then the music changes. Netflix captions this as uneasy music, which is accurate.
I did not catch
and
that.
Also, it's such a stark contrast to Dover Beach. Like, we have that, and then it just switches to this, like, really ominous, like, dark music that we haven't heard at all in the episode. Everything has been, like, really light and bubbly, and this is, it's uneasy, it's really dark, it's really heavy, and we see Ben texting.
And it feels anxious.
Yes.
The music feels anxious.
Yes. And we see Ben texting, and we see Charlie gets this text saying to meet him in the music block, and that Ben just wants to talk. And Charlie goes, and Nick sees it, and he looks concerned. And
he looks so worried.
Which is very interesting because Nick doesn't see Charlie's face.
Yeah.
Like,
I can only imagine that in the several weeks that were happening, they probably walked out together after, they probably hung out until they absolutely had to leave each other. Yeah. And I feel like this was very much like he went and changed, saw his phone and left and didn't say anything to Nick. And so that's where the concern's coming from.
Yes, definitely. So then we go to Charlie in the music block, and it's so unsettling. And you and I had different experiences because I'd read the comics first, and so I knew what was about to happen. And I just I was absolutely dreading it. But the show also does a very good job of telegraphing that something bad is about to happen. Because
and there's also like, even in this scene, there's like build up to it, right?
Yes.
Like you said, he's leaning when we walk in, and he's a complete asshole from the second he opens his mouth. I do have to say, though, it's not a cool guy lean anymore. It is. No, this is like a creep.
Yes.
Like a creepo
Especially
lean.
like the way that this area of the school is and where he's physically positioned himself. He's like out of sight in a corner where he can see that Charlie is coming, but Charlie can't see him.
Yes. Predatory.
There's no other word for it. And then he makes fun of Charlie for wearing a coat in February in England.
Yeah.
And I just said, like, fuck off, Ben, you're not cool. Also, don't be ableist, because he...
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
He uses an ableist word.
And also, like, has he ever been nice to Charlie once? Because we haven't seen it.
He said, I miss your face that one time.
But
I don't think...
genuinely.
Yeah, no. So Ben tries to kiss Charlie, because we often see that this is kind of the pattern with them. They briefly greet each other. Ben is an asshole. Ben kisses Charlie. But this time, Charlie, like, goes to move Ben's arm away and is like, don't touch me.
And he says, I'm trying to be nice. Are you? Because you have given us no reason to think that you're trying to be nice.
No indication that you're trying to be nice. Every indication that you're trying to intimidate Charlie into taking you back. And Charlie kind of like sets his boundaries, and Ben says, I don't believe you. You're clearly just scared of getting caught. Again, with that specific phrasing of getting caught, which Charlie calls him out on, because the whole school knows that Charlie's gay. Charlie already had the horrible outing. He's past that. Everyone knows he's not scared. It happened. It's over with. It's done. He is not scared of that. And he's rightfully very angry. Tells Ben he knows about his girlfriend, and like really does a good job of standing his ground and confronting Ben on all of the bullshit.
And I think the writers did a good job with this scene, having him be both like very mature and like getting his point across, but also he gets some digs in there like a teenager would.
Yes.
Like, I saw you at the gate with your girlfriend. Thanks for telling me.
Oh wait.
You didn't. Like, so they did a good job of like balancing all of that.
I think it's great that Alice wrote this episode, because they have such a strong understanding of Charlie as a character and are able to do that in a way that I don't think anyone else would be able to.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Ben pushes Charlie up against the wall.
Yep. And Charlie protests, and Ben overpowers him.
And it is very uncomfortable. It's awful. And
super hard to watch.
It's super hard to watch. And then someone pulls Ben off of Charlie. And it's Nick.
Thank God.
Thank God, yeah.
And he tells Ben to piss off. And he does a good job too of being like, he said no.
Yeah. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah.
And Charlie freezes.
Of course.
You can tell that he has not processed a single fucking thing. Yeah. He is just fully going through the motions at that point.
Mm-hmm. Ben leaves and Charlie, Nick asks Charlie if he's okay, which clearly Charlie's not okay.
Right.
But I also think that Nick, being like 15 years old, doesn't know what else to do in that moment.
Yeah.
Right?
And he does a good job also of keeping space. Like, he's very aware of the space between him and Charlie. He's, keeping a physical distance, checking in with him. And you can tell that, like, later on towards the end of this scene when he like pats him, he like very much wants to hug him, but he knows like, I can't get in this person's space because of what they just went through. And that is also another like very chef's kiss Nick Nelson trait. He's so intuitive and aware of like the situations in which he finds himself.
Yeah, he's doing such a good job of reading the situation because like Charlie apologizes and Nick is like, you shouldn't apologize. You have nothing to be sorry about, which is correct. And Charlie apologizes again. And like Nick kind of like tries to inject the humor and like in like these small doses just to see like, okay, how do we handle this? Like he's like, you say sorry a lot. And then, they kind of have this back and forth that's very much in keeping with the relationship that we've seen with them, but is also just like so gentle.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
And then they leave the school building.
And the way that Charlie like smiles, his like side smile when Nick pats him, I'm like, way to be subtle, Charlie.
Yeah. They leave and I just want to hold them both and tell them that it's going to be okay. Both separately and together. I want to just hold them.
Yeah.
And again, Joe Locke does an amazing job of face acting, and he like, you can see this like falling for Nick and this, processing the trauma of what just happened, like fighting each other on his face, and it's incredible.
Brilliant. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah.
And we get the classic, I feel like it's not a rom-com if we don't have, oh, I'm this way. Oh, I'm this way. And then they have to split and go their separate way.
And of course we see Charlie like look back longingly after Nick.
Yeah.
And then we get Nick in the car with Olivia Colman.
Yes, with
Sarah
his
Nelson.
mother, Oscar winner Olivia Colman. And he's not even hearing anything she's saying.
But yeah, no, he's so on another planet in this moment. Yeah. Like she could have told him that she just won an Oscar, and he
nothing.
Nothing. I'm like, excuse me, Nick, you are sitting in the car with the fucking queen. Show some respect.
Yes.
But yeah, he's so distracted. And then it cuts to Charlie at the bus. He's like trying to text Nick, and he just goes like, ah, because he doesn't know what to say. And like, how the fuck, like, what do you say at that moment? Like,
he's like, drafts are, thank you for being, and then he erases it. And then he says, I really, and then he erases it.
And then he just shouts in frustration.
Yeah.
And back in the car, Sarah asks Nick about practice again, and he says it was normal, even though it wasn't at all, because he fell in love with Charlie and then got to sexual assault.
Yeah.
Not a normal practice at all, Nicholas.
There are a couple of times when she asks him, like, how was this thing, or how was your day? And he says normal. And every time I'm like, normal, nothing gay happened at all. Everything was normal.
Exactly. And he's obviously still just thinking about everything that just happened. And we get a text from Charlie that says, thank you, with the little
X.
Yeah. And we see Nellie is his lock screen.
Yes.
And then there's like the little seagulls. He swoons. And then the episode ends.
Yeah. Okay, so I have an idea / question.
Okay.
And if we hate it, we can cut this.
Fair.
On a scale of 1 to 5, how hard did your heart stop in this episode? Because, like, for me, I'd say I had some flutters. Things were getting pumping. I'd say I was like a 2 out of 5 on the complete dead stop. But thinking about, like, the upcoming episodes, it's definitely going to be a roller coaster for me on that scale.
Yes. Yeah, this episode on the heart stopping scale, like I think a 2 out of 5 is accurate. On the heartbreaking scale, 10 out of 5.
Yeah. There were definite scenes where my heart stopped, but it was not for a good reason.
Yeah, not in the way that we want. Yeah.
Right.
I do like that, though. I was actually thinking something similar. But yeah, no, like a 2 out of 5, I think, is an accurate assessment.
Yep. So this one was a 2 out of 5 on the heart-stopping scale.
Yeah.
So that was episode 1.
Yes.
What a great intro to the series.
It really is.
They did such a good job of jam-packing this episode with so much backstory. And you don't even really realize, like, how much backstory you're getting because everything is so compelling and, like, just so well. The cinematography, like, everything just, like...
10 out of 10 use of montages.
Yeah. Yes. My montage notes got a little intense.
Yeah. But yeah, no, they did a really, really good job of introducing us to the characters that we meet in this episode. Obviously, we have a few more that I'm very excited to meet in the near future. But they do a great job of introducing Nick, Charlie, Tao, Isaac, Sarah, even everyone that we meet. Elle, Tori, Ben, Harry. Like, we don't even get Harry's. We don't get Harry's name in this episode, but I already hate him.
Yeah. He just exudes, like, asshole energy.
Yeah.
Which, like, good on that actor because I believe it.
Yeah.
Also, like, Sebastian Croft is, like, the sweetest little fluffy little human, and he kills the role.
He does. He is so good at making me want to punch him in the face. But then whenever I watch interviews of him, I just want to give him a big hug.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that he's dubbed himself the president of the Ben Hope Hate Club is...
Yes. Yeah.
Is great because it's just like, he understands.
Yeah, he does.
Like, we're on the same page here. Ben is not a good person.
No.
So that's everything that we have for this episode. So, of course, this is a bi-weekly podcast by two bisexuals. So we will be back in about 2 weeks to talk about episode 2, Crush.
And if you want to follow us online, we are at Why Are We Cast on all platforms. Until next time.